going to make sure that we were close to getting ready, but because of that silence, I really, maybe we are a little bit closer than I thought. So I know there'll probably be a few people coming in a few minutes. So what we will do, we will get started with some of our introductions. First and foremost, I'm Mr. Bedard. I have been your son or daughter's administrator the last 2 years. At SACS, we do a 2-year loop with 7th and 8th grade. And that really does help us transition the kids, get to know kids and families, and make sure that there is that preparation that we feel is important for kids as they enter the high school. Full disclosure, I was a teacher, coach, and administrator here at the high school for 11 years. So it's always kind of bittersweet when I come to this point, because while I know where your kids are going, it is always sad to say goodbye to a group of kids that we spend so much time with. With that being said, the high school is such an amazing place that the joy and excitement kind of overshadows a little bit of that disappointment from saying goodbye to a class, because I know the opportunities that they are going to have here and that are going to be presented to them are truly world-class and one of a kind. Every year I try to think of a story of somebody who progressed through SACS and then at the high school and has gone on. And I try to choose a unique story, and I think about most recently an 8th grader for about 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was, a student who probably didn't even know what broadcasting was, and got involved with our TV broadcasting program here, which is such an amazing program that gives so many kids opportunities in various roles. He's actually at my alma mater right now. I follow him on Twitter, and he went to the School of Newhouse and is probably working full-time as a broadcaster for Syracuse University, but then also local baseball teams, hockey teams. And it was interesting, on one of the Twitter feeds, some people were talking about his progression. And in athletics, we always talk about, our college athlete's going to go pro early. So the discussion was, is he going to go pro early and leave school? So I found that to be somewhat comical, but at the same point, really kind of proud of him, but also proud of what New Canaan as a town and community puts into schools in terms of very unique opportunities for our kids. And today you're going to have an opportunity to really learn about a number of the programs, obviously the transition process. And at any point through this process over the next either 6 months or how many months we have left, to be honest with you, your counselors, myself, Dave Gussage, our principal, also was an administrator here. So you do have a lot of good resources that we can help and support. And you're going to meet some of the high school support staff and administrators today as well. And before I continue, because I could talk at length about the high school and everything it has to offer, I am going to cut myself off and introduce your receiving administrator. Similar to we have a grade level administrator, the high school also has a receiving administrator, and your administrator will be my good friend Larry Sullivan.
Thank you, Steve. Let me be the first from the high school to welcome you here. I do see many familiar faces who have been through this experience before, and I see a lot of new ones as well. I'm happy to welcome you to the class, and these numbers at this point just sound like science fiction to me. The class of 2027. Which, again, Arthur C. Clarke didn't imagine we'd count this high. But we're always excited as a new class joins us. As Steve mentioned, we appreciate the relationship we have with our colleagues at SACS as we work through this transition together. It's something that we, really try to do very thoughtfully and carefully, both in terms of how much information we share and when we share information with the students, that they're ready for it. We're excited in March they'll get to come and have a night with us to really hear a lot about both academic classes, but also, as Steve mentioned, the variety of electives and other opportunities that are available to them. And it's great. I was just reminded a few minutes ago, this is the first time we've been able to do this in person in a number of years, hence not having enough furniture. But we do have some seats up front for anybody who's still lacking. So we weren't sure on the numbers to count on, but it's great to see such a great turnout. And I'd also like to introduce one of the furniture movers today, who's here with us, which is our principal, Bill Egan, to come welcome you as well.
Morning. How many of you are nervous? Honestly, I mean, I remember so vividly, my daughter's a senior this year, and I remember so vividly coming to high school, and I was so scared for her. Now I'm still scared for her in a different direction, the fact that she's going to be going to college, maybe for myself too. I got to figure out how to pay for it. But, you know, truly high school is a special journey, and this school is an amazing place. You know, your kids are going to be challenged to be the best they can be academically, in the arts, athletically, but more importantly, they're going to grow as people. They have so many freedoms that are here at the high school in a different way. It's not that Saks is not a special place. I know it is. But once you come to the high school, you just love the high school. So my hope for each and every one of you is that you love it here, but most importantly, your kids love it here, and they blossom into the amazing people that I know they're destined to be. So I just hope that you guys are really happy and excited for the journey. I know many of you have had parents here. Some of you have been, this is my 8th year, so next year will be my 9th. Some of you I've known every single year, so that's pretty awesome. So, meaning you've been parents the whole time through that journey. So, anyway, thank you for allowing me to be here today. And if you have any questions throughout your experience here at the high school, feel free to reach out to me. Like I said, this is truly an amazing place, and I hope that you love every second of it. So, anyway, thanks again. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Bedard. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. And Larry, thank you. See if I can get... Doing this virtually was a little bit easier tech-wise, so bear with me for 1 second. There we go. Sorry about that. Just before we do get started, again, like I said before, I could talk at length about the high school and the transition process, but I do have a number of people here today that are going to share their expertise as well. Today, our administrators, as I mentioned, everybody does know Dave. He is going to try to get over towards the end of the presentation. He's just finishing up some stuff for 6th grade. You heard from Bill Egan. He's our principal here at NCHS. Myself, one of the assistant principals at Saks, Larry, and you're also going to hear from Jay Egan. He's our NCHS athletic director. Most of you guys do know this, but in middle school, sports are either town or privatized in terms of different groups. When your son and daughter does get to the high school, they will compete for New Canaan High School if they choose to. They have such an array of sports and activities for kids that it truly is, you know, one of the best athletic programs. I'm sure you guys see some of the results every year. The coaching staffs that we have, you know, are second to none. And you know, it's pretty awesome when you get to represent your student body, your community, and your school by putting on that New Canaan jersey. So again, just in terms of how athletics changes a little bit, that's one way it does. We also have our school counselors here. We have Cindy Rivera. We have Sarah Drexel. I'm going to go in order. Tammy Nettleton, Sarah Beltran, and Brad Lepisto. And some of you guys may have heard me say this at the middle school. You know, they really are kind of our unsung heroes in terms of everything they do for not only our students but our families. And you know, I'm oftentimes reminded when we go through this transition process, everything that they do for all of us, you know, to make this transition from the planning to the implementation to the support, you know, really a seamless process for our kids and our families. And Brad's going to give you a little overview and agenda for today.
Good morning. Thank you for your support. It's wonderful working with all of you. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to go over the transition process, highlighting the websites that you'll be able to use and the timeline of events. And then we're going to give you a lot of information about New Canaan High School, including scheduling courses, world language, electives, co-curricular activities, athletics, the student support team here, and there are actually other public high school options available for your children as well. We'll preview kind of the next steps for you as well, and we will have some time for question and answer. Of course, there are going to be some questions that pop up as soon as you get in the car, so always feel free to reach out to your Saks school counselor, and we're happy to help you with that. We don't know all the answers, but we'll get them for you It's one way or the other. Here's a little overview of the transition process, but Tammy and others are going to go through it in a little more detail as well. We just kicked off with the first lesson for your kids last week. You may have heard about that. And, we're here all the way, through August till they walk through those doors. There will be other classroom lessons you'll hear about. I'll highlight the website for you in a minute. Everything, as you know, will be emailed out to you as well. And then an option is for you and or your kids to make appointments with your SAC school counselor. So sometimes we meet with the kid by herself. Sometimes we meet with you by yourself. Sometimes we're all together. It's really, whatever works for you. We are available for that. And then, of course, the classroom teachers, will start kind of talking about high school and mentioning things as it comes up as we go through the second half of the year. And, of course, getting to know the high school staff as well. I'm going to preview a couple of spots on the websites that will be useful to you. These are the titles of the links, but like I said, I'll actually show you what they look like. So from the SACS homepage, as you know, it's all been redesigned. So from menu, if you go to student resources, the place where all the information will be housed is called the SACS 8-9 transition site. So let's take a look at that. Okay, and up at the top you can see the links that we got through to get here. And what will happen is this middle section will just be populated as the process unfolds. So far, what you can see here is, or are the slides from the first lesson that your kids took part in. So that's going to be useful for you. You're certainly welcome to view those, but we also told your kids, they don't need to write anything down, they didn't take any notes. We will always post everything here. And there are a couple places on the high school website that, would be informative for you at this point. Again, going from menu to student resources, the student handbook is there, and it's an option. It's certainly not something you or your child would have to spend time with right now. But at some point through, the second half of the year, there's a lot of good information there. And then the other place that you and your kids will definitely be going is from the home page at the high school to school information, and then that's the program of study. So we tell them that's the catalog where you go shopping for classes. And over on the left, you'll see that the document is broken up into the various departments. Like that, of all the things that we previewed, certainly this is a resource, that you and your children will be using, and we will be helping them with this as we go through the lessons as well.
Before Tammy does take over, I just wanted to reiterate, I see a lot of people taking pictures with their cell phones, which is totally fine. I mean, I do it at my daughter's middle school all the time. Just know everything we do put up on this slideshow will all be on the website. So if you're worried that you missed something or you didn't get a chance to take a picture, please know probably this afternoon everything will be up there. So I did just want to make sure everybody knows that, because I know as a parent, my wife and I are always trying to write down all the information, trying to take pictures. Because of that and that experience, I always want to make sure that everything gets right up on the website. So you can actively participate however you wish, but please know that it will be up on the website this afternoon.
Great. And I just want to put another plug in for that program of studies. That is last year's program of studies that's up there right now, but they will be updating it and putting this next year's up there. And it's something that I pull out every single time I'm meeting with a student, whether we're looking at classes and trying to see how many credits the class is or what the class is about, a prerequisite that they would need to take prior to taking a class. So, and all the answers to New Canaan High School are there. Attendance, how many credits you need to graduate, how many courses you need to take in certain departments. So it is, I actually print it every year, and I have it, as hard copy when students come in or when I go into the classroom. So I definitely think checking out the program of studies is something to do here in the early stages. So the timeline is they're the school counselors. We are always available for questions and for guidance. So please feel free to reach out to us anytime. If you have a question and you're not sure if you should ask it, don't even second guess. Just please call us, and we'd be happy to help you through this process and your child. So if your children have any questions or worries or anything, just please send them in our direction, because we really want to help. This is why we start the process so early, is because we really want to go through it very slowly and make sure everyone feels very comfortable with everything that they have, with their classes and everything before they transition here. So that's really one of the reasons why we start in January. So please feel free to reach out to us. In January, we have this coffee today. We also did our classroom lesson with the students on January 5th, which was our overview. It was very similar to this, but we gave them more of the nuts and bolts of like the high school, like what a credit is, what the, we're gonna learn the schedule here today, but just answering their questions about lunches and other things that, that the kids really wanna know about the high school. We also told them that later on we're going to have high schoolers coming with us to the lesson that we do, our third lesson. So they're going to be able to ask high school students their direct questions from the high school perspective. So that's always a really great day, because they also want to hear from the high schoolers like what certain classes are like, and kind of like the from the perspective of the student. So that's that'll be our third lesson. But so they got the overview on January 5th. In February, we're going to do our second lesson with the students, where we go through all of the electives that are offered, and we show them videos that actually the New Canaan High School students have created about the classes here. So they get to learn about the specific elective classes through videos. In March, there is the Parent-Student Orientation Night, which is Thursday, March 2nd, and it's an evening night, like it's an evening orientation, and students and parents both attend that. And so it's really a fun evening in that you get to meet all the department chairs, the administrators are here, you get to walk around and see the classrooms and meet those teachers and hear about the classes. They really do an amazing job with organizing that night, and it's just a really, really fun time to be here and to start to feel what it's like to go here. So that is going to be March 2nd. And then the third lesson will be in the classroom. That's the one where we bring the high school students with us, and we help your children choose their classes. So we go into Power School, and we help them decide on what classes they're going to take. I say that, we teach them what to do, but ultimately the decision is yours as their parents. So even though we're going to be kind of taking them through how to do it, we expect them to come home, talk to you, and really choose those classes at home with you, given everything that they've already learned about those classes. And then everything is due April the 1st. So you have time to do it. We really will start this lesson in early March. And they'll see what classes they got into, and then you guys, as a family, decide what classes they should take, and then everything will be due April the 1st.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so we're going to take you through a few pieces of this. So when you get your course selections from the school, we are going to ask students to sign up for 5 core classes. World language is now a core class in the high school. It's not an elective. There is a requirement to take at least 1 year of a world language. And most colleges like to see 2 to 3 years, so some 4 years. So that's a different decision that has to be made. But 5 core subjects: English, not language arts, math, science, social studies, world language, 5 classes. PE and health, there's PE one semester, health the other semester, and there is a lab that is attached to your science as well, 2 times the cycle. So that's the 6th slot out of 8. The 7th slot out of 8 is for an elective, either 2 half years, first semester and second semester, or a full year elective like band or choir or something that would be full year. The 8th block is an open block. So that is a free period for the children or study hall that they will have. We recommend leaving that open and not trying to fill it because there's a lot going on in freshman year for students. They need to get to 25 credits in order to graduate, and they will. So this allows them to transition into the high school, take time with their courses that they're in. We want them, particularly, to be challenged appropriately, but not over-challenged. And in being challenged, they need to find time to consider their classes, to consider their homework, to consider their projects and papers. They can't run through it quickly. There's going to be homework for everything. So that's why we are asking you to be careful about how you help your children select classes. Oftentimes, people think, oh, they don't need that much free time. They can fill it with another elective. Let's get this out of the way now so you don't have to do it later, those kinds of things. Please be careful about that. We don't want to oversubscribe them in freshman year. Grades count in freshman year. The semester grades count, go on a transcript, can't be removed, can't be changed. I do get that question every year. Can't we just take that grade off? They did badly. No. That's a legal document. You're in for it now. So we're trying to create that atmosphere of the right balance for them. And then in sophomore, junior, senior year, you have time to change where you're going, the levels you're going to. You're never blocked into one level. You can always move up levels, down levels, et cetera, as you get into the courses that you're going to be going for. So that takes me a little bit to how this works. Between your teachers and the department chairs here, they will be making recommendations for levels of courses in the core subjects for your child for next year. Honors levels or standard level. Math has 3 to 4 levels depending on the math they're in. So there is a lot of consideration in those now as with the teachers here, the department chairs here, who are looking at some and various analysis, some various assessments and benchmarks that your children are currently going through in 8th grade, and that is determining levels that they're going to be going into next year. So that's why this process takes a while. There is a lot of consideration and thought as to what's right for your child. You will get that home and you will work with your child as to what's appropriate. They may be approved for an honors level, but they've been approved for honors level in 4 places, and you're concerned about that, given maybe they're also a big athlete, or they have a very big schedule after school, or you're worried about they tend to get anxious when there's a lot of homework, and maybe you don't want to do that to them this year. So that's the conversation you're having with your children around that. What's appropriate, and that's what you work with your counselors at SACS with, who know your children. What's appropriate for them at the high school level. And then if you also disagree with the recommendations made, there is a whole process of being reconsidered for different subjects, which I'm sure, SACS, you will be talking with the kids about how that works. So that's what all those things happened for. So there's your courses. The schedule, let me see if I can do this. It's very colorful. So it is a block schedule. So you can see, so we have 8 blocks. So 4 on an A day, 1 through 4, 5 through 8 on a B day. So you have to look at that. So A, for example, A, that first block, let's say that's English. wherever that block shows up, you can't see the whole thing, but every day, that's when, every other day, they'll have English. And then, in the math will be every other, so every subject is every other day for 85 minutes. PE and health are every day for half blocks, every other day for half blocks. Okay, does that make somewhat of sense? Okay. So it looks like where they have a study hall, they might have an 85-minute study hall, and that seems like a lot of time. But that is giving them the time to get work done, meet with teachers, see their counselors, do other things that are essential to their growth when they're here. Okay? And it's a rotating schedule, so it'll make no sense to you for a while. So there's never the same class first block, and there's never the same class last block. So that it always rotates in and out. Every day it's a different schedule. I think that's as much as you need to know on that for now. Are we taking questions now or later? Not that?
At the end, but if there's one that pertains to that.
Yeah. Does anyone have any?
Seems though it's changed since I've been here, so I cannot answer the next question.
And then in the middle, there's lunch, and you will learn all about these things as we go through. It's sort of, do you really want to know that now? And then finally, bring your own device. We ask students to bring a laptop or a Chromebook every day as part of their books. That's what we use here. So if there is any, it's listed on the website what devices, and we will on the orientation evening have someone set up to talk to you about what's the appropriate device. If there's any financial difficulty with that, with providing your child their own laptop, then we do rent them here, and we can provide help with that. So that's something that we can look into for you as well. Okay, all right. Not me.
What's wrong, Sarah?
I was excited.
Okay. There are about a dozen empty seats. I know it's the front row, and that's not really popular, but if anybody wants to sit rather than stand, there are a dozen seats up front. Okay, so I'm going to talk with you a little bit about world language. The languages offered at the high school are the same as at SAC, so that's French, Spanish, Mandarin, and Latin. In addition, there's a class called Latin Mythology and Etymology, which covers Roman history, culture, and myths, as well as Latin grammar and vocabulary. It can be taken as a precursor to Latin 1, and it could be a good choice for a student who has not yet studied a world language for some reason. Most 8th graders continue with the same world language in high school, but students also have the option of starting a new language, different from the one they've studied at SACS, at level 1. And this is subject to enough enrollment to create a level 1 class section for that language. So if they choose to do that, if there are only 2 or 3 students who sign up for that level 1 in French or whatever it is, then they can't run the class. And we sort of figure that out as we go along, but it is an option. SACS World Language teachers place their students into the class where they believe they'll be the most successful. Most students are recommended for level 2 or level 2 honors. Recommendations are not based solely on their grades at SACS, but also on proficiency expectations, which are spelled out in each world language class description in the online program of studies that you've already heard about. So if you're curious, you can go to the class descriptions for the world language, and it will tell you what the expectations are for honors. Honors classes move at a quicker pace, and students are expected to do more preparation for the class and work more independently. Students need to go through an online appeals process. You'll learn more about how that works to request a different level of world language from what they're recommended for. Whether they want to go higher or lower, they need to go through an appeals process for that. The state of Connecticut has a requirement of 1 year of world language, which Cindy shared with you, for graduation from high school. However, most colleges look for 2 to 4 years of the same world language on a transcript. Students who reach level 4 of a world language at the high school have the opportunity to participate in proficiency testing. If they achieve a certain score on the test, they earn the Connecticut Seal of Biliteracy, which recognizes the tangible benefits of being bilingual, basically certifies that you're bilingual, and prepares students to be 21st century global citizens. The seal is added to the student's official transcript and also to their diploma. If you have any further questions above what I've shared, please feel free to contact your child's current world language teacher.
Now I think it's me. So I just wanted to share, I am new to the high school this year. I was a counselor in another district for many years, and this is one of the most inviting and welcoming environments. So I really hope that you feel that way, that your child feels that way, and just know that people are really happy to be here, faculty. I came in beginning of summer and people were smiling and excited to be back, so I knew that was a really good sign. So just know that. So I'm going to spend some time talking about our elective offerings. So we have robust offerings. We have many opportunities for students to really discover their interests, what they're passionate about, who they are. Elective opportunities are a great chance for your student to really kind of get to know themselves as learners, and it really helps develop intellectual curiosity. So we do break down our electives into categories. So you may hear the term CTE. So I know Mrs. Rivera started to talk about graduation requirements that we have. So we have career and technical education classes and credits. Students do need to earn CTE credit in order to graduate. So our full year classes here are 1 credit. Our half-year classes here are 0.5 credit, and we require that students take 0.5 CTE. So this is classes like our business, computer science, intro to engineering and design, foods and nutrition, woodworking. So lots of opportunities to meet that requirement. And then we have visual and performing arts. So think art, filmmaking, digital photography, and our music classes. And what we will have your students do is they will select 6 electives in order of preference to be considered for at the high school level. So, and I will say, be thoughtful, or encourage your child to be thoughtful about all 6 classes that they're electing or selecting for this process, so that when they get a certain elective, they'll be content, hopefully in that class. So thinking back to the graduation requirements, the VPA is also a requirement, 0.5 for that. And then those categories fall under other graduation requirements. So our VPA classes fall under a greater category of the humanities, and then our CTE fall under a greater category of the STEM. What's really exciting about the electives is that it's exposure for students to be with upperclassmen, or just to be with kind of a diverse range of students. So unlike their world history, which will be all grade level, the electives kind of open them up to working with other students in other grades. And just to kind of re-emphasize that the orientation evening program on March 2nd, you and your child will have an opportunity to really go around and see some of these classes in action. I was able to do a walkthrough earlier in the year, and to be in a woodworking class and just see students at different stations. So some kind of watching videos and planning out what they're actually going to create, and then seeing other people on the other, the different side of the room actually creating. It's very cool. Digital photography is another one where some students are at the computer editing, and other students are in the back taking pictures using certain light. Very, very interesting, and it's a nice opportunity for students to have that break within their day. And then co-curricular activities. I would have to say so far probably one of my favorite days here was our activity fair, club fair that we had. And I believe it was the first time it was back in person in some time. And it was just a dynamic day. So it took place in the cafeteria. 9th graders were encouraged to go down. It was early fall. And the different clubs and organizations had their tables, and they were bribing probably with some candy and some snacks along the way. But there's a range of clubs here. So anything from academic to service. I had a moment with one of my seniors this year who was sharing, different things that he's a part of, and he's like, slobs, slobs. Well, I didn't know slobs because I'm new here, but if anybody else is new, it's the Service League of Boys, and it seems like they do incredible work. So there's just a lot of ways to get involved. We encourage students to get involved with the clubs. Again, you're going to have opportunities. They will have opportunities to kind of be with a range of students in different grades, and there's just so much learning that comes from that. We have debate club, and I know that I had a 9th grader this year who was, a little nervous and kind of finding her place, and she met an upperclassman that's really become a mentor too. So lots of ways to get involved. I will show you there's a link on the website, and then you're able to see all the, and this is updated, so you can see that we have academic, we have cultural, awareness club, personal awareness club, interests and hobbies. Another great aspect to New Canaan High School is that students are allowed to create clubs of their own. So if there's something that that they're just not finding their place, they have a different idea, they are able to create a club as long as they get an advisor. That being said, the range that we have here, we have everything from Dungeons and Dragons to a sports medicine club. So lots of opportunities. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to the other Mr. Egan to talk about athletics.
It's not the other Mr. Egan.
Oh. The OG.
It's the other Mr. Egan. I begged him to call himself Principal Egan, but he wouldn't listen. So now we have, the good thing about it is he gets all of my mail as well. So that's really good. Good morning. Just a few things to say. I will continue on the theme of being involved in some type of extracurricular activity here, visual and performing arts, athletics. There are so many great things for young people to get involved with that, we like to say, get your money's worth, right? So there's going to be 4 years, there's 3 athletic seasons, so there's 12 opportunities for young people to participate and be engaged outside of the academic day. So the area that I'm responsible for is athletics. We have 32 sports that we offer. We offer freshman sports everywhere that any other school does, and New Canaan High School actually offers more freshman sports. Some schools with declining enrollment or interest can't field freshman teams, but we field all the freshman teams that we can. One important question I think that people always have is, what about cutting? Our coaches have expanded their rosters to the fullest, and only areas where we need to cut based on facility availability or really having reasonable opportunities for young people to be coached and participate do we have cuts. So when we don't have to have cuts, we don't. So an example of what I'm talking about would be the swim team, for example. We couldn't have 50 people on the swim team because there would be no place for them to practice. Basketball, 5 people play at one time. They usually have 16 or 17 kids on the team. That's 3 times as many kids as can play. So that's just an example of what we're trying to do at athletic. And then there are some sports with track. It's a great opportunity for an off-season activity for someone from another sport. We have 45 people. We've had 80 people, and we're just able to fill that in with coaches. So that's, I think, a question that everybody has, which is an important question. Something that we do, which I would strongly encourage you to attend, is our Meet the Coaches Night. It looks like a job fair. We have it in our gymnasium. All our coaches are there. We have a few opening comments, and then you walk around and you can ask, you and your son or daughter can ask the coaches any questions about their program, or maybe it's a sport that your son or daughter might be interested in, they haven't tried yet. That's a good opportunity to kind of find out what that sport might be all about. Our athletic website is www.ncrams.com. That has information about it has coaches' contact information, and then it has links to all kinds of information that's related to New Canaan High School athletics. We do have our fall start dates up there. Some of you, as far as your vacation planning is concerned, those dates are this year's dates, and those dates are accurate. One thing I will mention about that sometimes confuses people is we do offer preseason sports camps as opportunities. So if we're starting, for example, soccer on the 24th, we may have a preseason sports camp that starts on a week earlier. These are our offerings. They are not mandatory. The camp programs are not mandatory. The mandatory start dates for the fall sports are what you see up on the screen. Okay, thank you.
Okay, me again. I get to talk about the high school student support team. So the high school has 8 school counselors. Your child's school counselor will be with their counselor for 4 years, and I have to say it's probably the one of my favorite aspects of this role is being able to see somebody as a 9th grader and see them through their senior year and graduation. So we have 8 school counselors. We have 2.5 school psychologists. So we have 2 full-time school psychologists who are here Monday through Friday, and then we have a half-time school psychologist who is here as well. We have 2 school social workers. We have a college and career center coordinator who is truly incredible. Our whole department is really cares about students and their well-being and helping them to be successful. So just know that. In addition to that kind of core team, we also have a teen talk counselor, another counselor here right now currently, Mr. Greg Sloan. So we work as the counselors and as with the school psychs, we work collaboratively as a team. We work very closely with our grade level administrator. So Mr. Sullivan will have all of your children, and we'll work very closely with him to ensure that they're successful. And let me show you one of my favorite parts is our school counseling website. We just keep it so up to date with information, which I have to say does not happen everywhere. So it's very nice to see that anything that is either in the works or that we've done or that a program that we've had, it gets posted here. There's a monthly newsletter as well. This is our counseling suite. We actually have students who sit on those high top tables right outside. It's really nice. Welcoming environment. They'll walk in. We have Mrs. Pocha who sits right there. She'll help them schedule appointments. School counselors have time within their day during the lunch block where we don't have anything scheduled, so we're available for walk-ins as well, which is really nice. Just lots of information here. When the website changed on us, it took us a little while to figure out where everything was again, but we're back up, and I think we know now. All right.
Your child has other public high school options, meaning they are free, they would be accepted. It includes transportation. So you can see them highlighted here. You received an email about them, and the email contained a document with links to their websites and including their videos. So that is, really, they provide a nice, quick way to get a sense of what the school is all about through those videos. I think most of them have 2 or more. And if you think your child is interested in one of these high schools, definitely reach out to your SAC school counselor, and we'll very quickly put you in connection with Cindy and the other school, high school counselors to make sure that we're coordinating that and you have all the information about how that works, and are you going to be there for 4 years or 2 years, and things like that. So obviously the majority of our students end up coming here, so I won't say too much more, but definitely just reach out individually if one of those would be of interest to your child. All right, so next steps. Even though we kicked off the high school information with your children last week, we still want to encourage them to be present daily and enjoying 8th grade. So You know, we sort of say, listen, just trust us, focus on your day-to-day, focus on 8th grade. We'll prompt you, you know, when it's time to think ahead a little bit to 9th grade and high school. And, you know, the best thing they can do to be prepared is just their day-to-day, you know, responsibilities. There isn't anything else they would need to do. And, you know, with those last 2 bullet points about following their interests and being involved, those are things that we are going to be talking with them about in all of the lessons and in our individual meetings. And, you know, we explain to them, for example, when you're picking electives, that there are really 2 very different approaches, but both have merit. You know, you can kind of dive deeper into something that you already know about and you're good at, and you can try something you don't know anything about and it's brand new for you. So even though, you know, they're very different approaches, they certainly both can be good possibilities. And we just want them, as long as they're being thoughtful and talking with the adults in their lives about these options, you know, then we know they're going to be in a good position. All right, so I'll turn it over to Steve, kind of wrap up, and any questions?
Thank you, Brad, and everybody who presented today. Just before we turn it over to a Q&A, because we did start so promptly, we have about 10 minutes or so to do some Q&A. But before we get to that in the thank yous, I just wanted to reiterate, you know, something that, you know, Jay had said earlier, our athletic director. You know, get involved, you know, take chances, you know, try something new. When I coached here, I coached track and field. 0% of my athletes ever did track and field before they got to high school. And we were pretty successful, you know, in terms of winning state championships, individual championships, and kids going on to college. And that's because, you know, they saw an opportunity. You know, New Canaan does a great job of making sure every opportunity is one that is very robust and excellent in terms of support and coaching. And not only through the athletic lens, but, you know, one year when I was coaching, I had a student who came to me before the season and was had a very disappointed look on his face. I said, Mr. Bedard, you know, I can't do track this year. I said, okay. I said, do you mind if I ask why? He goes, well, you know, I really enjoy theater and I'm going to get in the theater program. I said, that's great. I said, you know, be the best you can be in whatever you do. And a couple years ago, my daughters and my wife went to Broadway to see Frozen, and he was performing on Broadway. So you can kind of see how, you know, interests change, but it's based, you know, it really is, you know, so amazing that we have so many opportunities that can lead to so many other things later on in life. I just encourage you, like I do to your kids now, you know, to take advantage of opportunities and be the best you can be. So I did want to share, you know, that story in addition to the story I shared earlier in terms of, you know, what New Canaan High School can provide. And just, you know, thank you, obviously, our executive board. You see all their names up there. We couldn't do what we do without their support. And then today's host, Natasha James and Kate Brooks, thank you so much for putting together all the refreshments and putting together this event. This process really starts, I believe in October. Tammy, is that correct? We started, you know, meeting. You know, when we do, you know, take that thoughtful approach to make sure that it's not overwhelming for anybody, that it is very, you know, programmed, and we do expose kids to various things and families at different times to make sure that, you know, we don't lose focus on what, you know, is currently going on, but we also make sure that we're prepared for that future. So let me just, with that being said, we do have, like I said, we have our experts here. If you have any questions that are general questions, obviously there's specific questions to your child, we can definitely kind of work offline to answer those. But if you do have any general questions or maybe something that you would like clarified that you saw today, like I said, we have about 10 minutes. Yes, sir.
Would you make that slideshow available?
Yep, the slideshow should be available this afternoon, if not this afternoon, tomorrow for sure. And also, this is being recorded, so the recording will also be on the website for people who couldn't make it, or if you'd like to go back and rewatch a part. That's the one really good thing that we learned, you know, going through what we've gone through the last couple of years. We have a lot more capabilities to make things available to families who can't attend. Yes?
And a quick question. You said orchestra is a full-year elective. So if they want to do other things, so continue orchestra and not do study hall, just trying to wrap my head around this, like, how does that potentially work?
Yeah, so it's possible. I just always say, maybe not freshman year, just, or even not first semester freshman year. Give them the opportunity to get used to everything else. So orchestra will give them one of the 1.5 credits they need in terms of visual and performing arts and CTE credits. So eventually, they have to get that career and tech ed credit in, and oftentimes they do it in junior or senior year. But if they have interests in other things that they want to pursue, it's difficult to do that 8th class. So I always say, give them a break that first semester. Everything is difficult enough. And then we can sneak it in there somewhere between sophomore, junior year pretty easily. Asking how many electives total they need. They need a total of 1.5 credits. So most of them are half-credit courses. They have to cover both career and tech ed and visual performing arts. So you have to get at least one in each and then one more somewhere. So there's plenty of opportunity over 4 years. Some kids think they have to do it freshman year. It's like, no, all 4 years we'll get it in somewhere. So.
Yep.
Yes, it is. Can I assume that once the student is assigned an elective, they're pretty much locked in for the year or semester? Like if my son took woodworking and thought it would be great and realized like a class in he'd made a terrible mistake, like you're in it, right?
So, yes, there is approximately 10 days to redecide once you start, particularly electives, because they're only half a year in most cases. You have to decide pretty quickly, and if you lose the beginning of another elective, it's hard to catch up. So, but we do give them 10 school days to really try things out. That said, often the electives fill up and there's not room to move into another elective, so that's why we ask them to be really careful. And also, given it's only a half year, oftentimes they can handle it for a half year and say, okay, I'm not going to be a woodworker in my life, but I might make it through here and learn how to make a shelf, so.
Just to that point, that is really why it's really important. When we did this in person, the open house night, the kids absolutely love it because they actually get a chance to get in and really get an experience in a lot of these electives and really learn about it. So really take advantage of that opportunity, especially when you're thinking about our electives. They have kids who have been previously in the courses there to talk to kids. A lot of them do demonstrations. A lot of the teachers will really get the kids a mini experience through that night, just so they can really learn a lot about all the electives that they offer here. Yes?
I just have 2 questions. So in SACS, they have teams. There are no more teams, right, in high school?
No, there are no more teams here, and that's actually a really good question that leads into one of the points I always tell parents is you're less defined by grade. I think when you get to the high school is the best way I can put it, based more about interest, more about certain classes. Because of the middle school model that we know works best is the teaming model in terms of supporting kids through those transition years. Things do open up quite a bit. So there's not like a 9th grade section here, a 10th grade section. They really have it by departments, and kids are kind of intermingled as much as possible. And a lot of the electives, activities, and even some of our sports, to a point, have kids with multiple grades. So a lot of times kids will come back to SACS and they're still friends with their kids that they went to, but they may have better friends that might be a sophomore or a junior based on whatever they're involved in, whether it be crew or the arts, whatever it is based on interest, which I think is pretty cool. You really kind of find people who have like interests, and you really form some unique bonds.
Thank you. My
Yep.
second question is on grades. Are they weighted or honors classes?
Honors classes are given a weighting. You won't see it in the grades. The grades are the raw scores that they have. The ultimate GPA on their transcript is weighted once they receive those. So at the semester and at the end of the year, those are the grades, which include midterms and finals, will go into their GPA. And ultimately, it's really, you won't see what that weighting is till after sophomore year, but it is being calculated for those. And that includes AP courses, which they'll get to after freshman year. I'm sorry? It is in the program of studies, I believe, yeah. It's a multiplier of 1.075 if you want the calculation.
If they do a sport, are they exempt from PE?
There is no PE exemptions.
Even when you break a leg, there's no PE exemption. It's amazing what they do here.
And so that being said, our PE, program is built on a shared experiences. A lot of kids will take team individual activity, lifetime, or fitness. On your tour, when you come in March, make sure you get down to visit our fitness center. I would say it's probably as nice as any health club. Kids are pretty fortunate, when they have injuries or whatnot, there's a prescribed program that they can do with our fitness center director as well.
About electives, when they put them in the order of preference, is that based on what's available for their schedule, or how does that get chosen for?
Yeah, generally. The upperclassmen get first dibs because we're trying to get them to fulfill their requirements first. But usually upperclassmen are more advanced electives. They're not always in the first level of electives, but they do get first dibs, and then it's random based on their schedule. The computer really kind of puts that together.
So if our daughter were to continue with orchestra as her main elective, that's for that full year, the choice is done. If she decided not to, another year, sophomore year, are there co-curriculars for music that she can continue with music in some way?
There are some clubs, and I would say more students might get involved with like School of Rock in town or some musical groups if they're more interested in those kinds of things. But I know like Norwalk Youth Symphony, you have to be in the orchestra here as well. So it's kind of a depends kind of thing. Our orchestra, our music, and particularly our music teachers prefer, if you're thinking about walking away from orchestra or choir that you have been doing for a number of years, to at least give it a try freshman year and think about that in subsequent years.
I just didn't know if there were, we just saw the advanced choir in the 7th, 8th grade concert, and do they meet during, was that something that meets after school?
No, that meets during school as well. So if they're put into an ensemble, or there's a women's choir now, and there are some, but then you are selected for that, and that becomes part of that block of time where you're taking choir.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that in terms of music outside of or extracurricular is there could be opportunities to be involved in the musicals here. Either
Good point,
if you're a
yes.
singer, you don't need to be part of the chorus to be a singer in the musical. You try out for a role, or as background musicians for that type of thing as well.
Yep.
When do we receive our child's counselor sign-ups?
That usually happens over the summer. But if your older child is with a counselor already, then generally we keep families together.
Would the same counselor help them find college admission as well?
The same counselor helps with college admissions as well, yes.
If you're cut from soccer or 17, have they ever had like an intramural group for kids to join? Has that ever been an option?
I believe so, right? Do we still have intramurals? It all stopped with COVID, so I don't know
Right.
what's back up and running.
Again, there are other opportunities in the community. We don't have a robust intramural program, I guess is what I would say at this point. There are some opportunities that are available through the Y or something like that.
Just to kind of piggyback on that, and this is kind of a plug that I used to do when I coached, because as I mentioned, I never got kids coming from, track background. There are so many other opportunities. I can't tell you how many times I got a lacrosse player that got cut freshman year, came to track, and then by senior year had a couple state championships to his name. And it just was one of those things. As one door may close, there could be 2 or 3 that may open again. So with that being said, I encourage them, if they're in a situation where they may not make a team their first choice, get involved cross country, track and field, crew. I know Jay will probably tell you a bunch more because it's been a while since I've been here, but there are so many opportunities for kids, and sometimes, it's a blessing that they're involved in something new and they have these newfound successes as well.
Yeah, I found many students at some point don't make a team, and they go to the Y, and Y ball is huge for our boys in particular, and that they enjoy creating teams there, much more non-competitive, but still, boys are boys, they're competitive, so they enjoy that quite a bit, so.
In teaching, we always talk about appropriate wait time, so I'm trying to figure out what the appropriate wait time is at the end. Yep.
As part of this process of choosing classes for freshman year, are you able to help sort of think ahead to years after that and how choices for the first year may impact options that follow?
Yeah, the question was, when we're helping them pick their ninth grade classes, are we also helping them look ahead 9-12? Yes, certainly to some degree. As none of us have worked here at the high school, Tammy, Sarah, and I, so we do consult with the high school staff a lot when we have a question. But yes, overall, we will talk with them about that, because that's also one of the themes where, like Cindy said, maybe food and nutrition will be filled. You have laws about how many people can be in a professional kitchen and things like that. There have to be limits. So we also talk to them about having a 4-year perspective. This isn't just about ninth grade. It's sort of about high school as a whole. So we'll do some of that. And then we also say, you're going to write it in pencil. As we're talking about, you don't know exactly what the opportunities will be, which doors will open or which ones will close. But, the idea of like a rough draft, putting it in pencil, it is important to think ahead as well.
I would also add and ask you to take a look at the program of study within each discipline, each department. There are some diagrams that will kind of pathway out for you the levels of courses as kids move through. If they start here in ninth grade, they'll tend to follow this pathway. Again, the other thing I would say, and I know Cindy alluded to this earlier, every student and family has to make the right choice for their balance as they make this transition. And because a student chooses to take perhaps an honors level class this year, doesn't mean they're locked into that forever. And the same is true the other way, that if a family chooses that our student is going to focus this year here, there is still movement, and one can step up so that students who didn't enter taking an honors level course are still taking APs when they're juniors. So you can see those pathways, but don't think of those pathways as one-way roads, I guess is my way of saying it.
And then once they're here, by November of their freshman year, they're meeting with their counselor one-on-one to develop a 4-year plan and to talk about all the opportunities based on where their interests, their goals, their thoughts are so far. And counselors work with them every year around developing those interests and make sure that they're taking advantage of what's here in order to achieve their goals for both their careers, their college majors, their life as we go forward. Yep.
On the subject of honors classes, is that open to everyone to select an honors class, or do they have to be eligible for it first?
They will be, need to be eligible. It's really based on what developmentally they're ready for, what they're showing in their current classes, certainly their writing skills, their ability to analyze data and read proficiently for those levels. Ooh, more questions. Right. Right, there's no more AP World History in ninth grade. The AP, the College Board, changed the curriculum. So it only covers the modern era, which is what we teach in sophomore year. Yeah. The challenge program doesn't move forward to the high school. So buy them a nice gift. I'm kidding, I don't know. So that's considered in the recommendations as well. So if they're in the challenge program, and those recommendations will come in the same way as all recommendations are coming, with department chairs here working with the 8th grade to make the proper determination for placement.
I know you have a theater program after school. Do you offer any theater electives, or are you planning on that?
No, but we've tried in the past, and they haven't run, so I don't know of any in the plans.
Yeah, currently, there is not a drama program with classroom time. It is after school, yes.
And it's very robust.
Yeah,
A
very.
lot of kids in that.
Does the high school preschool still exist?
It does. It is the high school preschool exist, yes. It's our child development class, and where kids get to work with little 3-year-olds, so it's fun. Okay.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming today. We're excited to meet your students and welcome them here. I look forward to seeing all of you back here on March 2nd for our evening. Thank you.